I was working in the stock market 16 years ago, and I was an addict, which meant that I had food addiction at that time, and I had workaholism, and my head was like going at 100 miles an hour at the time. And it was just non-stop thoughts, you know, I needed to do this, I needed to do that, I needed to control that. And I was an addict, so I was always looking for an experience that would give me a high, basically. So I was like, oh, I don't like it, it's raining. I need to go somewhere where it's sunny, and then I'll be happy. So there was this huge up and down that was constantly going, and my thinking seemed to be in charge, you know, and that's all that my experience was this rapid succession of, and for me, I would say I was at a very, very low level of consciousness at that time, which meant that I had this very up and down type of experiencing with, you know, either my thoughts were rapidly like wanting something and then getting something, you know, like I want those donuts, and then I was eating the donuts and getting some relief from my head for a little while, and then the rapid thinking, either I'd be in all the negative emotions like desire, like fear, self-pity, then anger, and then sudden bursts of happiness when something that my ego had been projecting was suddenly achieved. So it'd be like, oh, you know, like if I could be a bit thinner, I'd be a little bit happy when I got a bit thinner. Or if I could get the girlfriend, I'd be a little bit happy when I got the girlfriend. But then unhappy when the girlfriend left, you see, and unhappy when there wasn't any more food. Or unhappy when, with all of those things. So there's a huge emotional roller coaster of up and down. And the way I sort of see it at the time, some 16 years ago, was that I was very, very strongly in the grips of something I call my ego. What does that mean experientially is that I was highly identified with the physical body. You know, it was like there was this strong identification that this physical thing is me in here. And that was my solid experience. If anyone had asked me, yes, this is definitely...
How can you not be identified with your physical body?
we can.
You have to be identified with your physical body.
I was highly identified. Yeah. Well, how can you not be?
Yeah.
Well, you see, it's not black and white. For me, spiritual progression is not black and white. It's a, well, well, I've had profound mystical experiences, but generally, as I was doing the spiritual work, there's a gradual loosening of all of the identification, all the attachments, all the up and down positionalities or dualities, or things that had huge weight or meaning within the ego. So these things are gradually released over time, because, well, in the stock market I had kidney failure and I was facing death. I had a mystical experience there, and I knew that I needed something spiritual, because the insanity of the non-stop thinking and the huge emotional roller coaster, adrenaline, and desperately wanting something, feeling gloriously happy for a few minutes, and then in deep despondency for days or weeks, was, you know, it was literally burning my whole body out. It couldn't survive. And then I thought it was a mystically divine experience, because it was like, now that I'd reached the point of death, I could suddenly have a realization that there is a spiritual way, in my case, I needed to heal by spiritually reconnecting, spiritually, by letting go of the various aspects of my ego, you know, various thought patterns, which would, I see most thoughts, and you could say all thoughts are limiting. If you identify heavily with them, you have this up and down, you see. So if I had this huge thing, like I think a lot of people, you know, you could say the collective culture, you know, of like, you know, when you're successful, you know, you get the status of the parent, you know, the parents say, when you're a doctor, you know, well, they did say that to me, when you're a doctor, then, you know, so it becomes a hugely highly identified thought. Or it could be when you're thin, or it could be when I have the girlfriend. So these become like super identified things. So it's like when you haven't got it, if there's a huge identification with the thought, when you haven't got it, there's like this huge pit of despair, you know, and then suddenly on the moment it seems that you've grasped it, there's huge elation, you know. So it was like this huge swing up and down, and that was like burning, you know, it took me to the brink, literally, quite literally to the brink of death. So, and then the spiritual experience, it was like, at the point of death, it was like the ego suddenly surrendered. It was a mystical thing. It surrendered its huge controlling ideas and thoughts, and some kind of timeless stillness manifested, or was there at that point. And there was a message, and I knew that I had to seek spirituality out for the thing. Then I was led to various, I won't go into it now, 2 spiritual teachers, one Dr David R Hawkins, who's a teacher of enlightenment, and the other Muji, who's, you could say, he's a non-duality teacher. I had a white light spiritual experience with a one-to-one meeting with Muji here in Brixton many years ago, and then I had a kind of spiritual Kundalini type experience when I saw Dr Hawkins. I met him a couple of times out there in Sedona, Arizona.
Could you elaborate about the white light experience? I don't.
Yes, yeah, the white light spiritual experience. Okay, so this thing of identification, and the bodies that I think, you know, the Course in Miracles says the identification with the body is probably one of the strongest. I think, in my view, it is one of the strongest beliefs that are held by the ego. So the white light spiritual experience. Okay, so I had been going. You know, this guy introduced me to Muji. He was in Brixton at the time, and he's a spiritual teacher. And I was going to these they're called satsangs, and literally, I mean, when I first went, I knew he was there because there was this huge tingling, and I knew I had this spiritual inner resonance now when something seemed authentic for me, which I didn't have before the near death. It was my ego that was like running the show. There was no awareness of spirituality before that. But I'd gone to see this guy Muji, who was recommended to me, and I was literally in bliss, and my mind went silent, and it was just this absolutely blissful stillness, of almost like the blissful stillness of the absence of thought. It may sound funny, and I just had that. Anyway, he was teaching, and this is advanced, but the Course in Miracles is going there. You know, how to go. Phraseology, of course, I'm speaking at to different audiences, but it's enlightenment. So it's like experiencing that which is beyond the ego. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he does these self-inquiry questions with people, and it was quite cozy because I could be in the back of the audience and he would be doing his self-inquiry. But eventually he said, "Does anyone want to meet me privately for a one-to-one session?" And I said, at the end of the satsang, I said, "I'd like to meet you for one-to-one." So he said, "Okay." So he gave me the date for the one-to-one. And at that point, I had enough spiritual understanding to know that he meant business with my ego. I think some people may know what that means. He meant business with my ego. He meant, like, you know, to experience that which is beyond the ego. And to let go of all the cherished belief systems that, oh, I am the body, I am this identity, I am, you know, all of these various aspects of, and I knew he was an authentic teacher. So there, you know, on the day that, at the time, you know, the illness, I mean, my addictions had taken me to kidney failure. I was in, you know, at a point, a machine 8 hours a day. I had walking sticks. I had to use asthma inhalers to breathe. But still, I knew that the spiritual solution, this spiritual thing, could take me out of the hell and give me salvation from literal physical, emotional, addictive hell. So anyway, so there was something spiritually, like an inspiration that wanted, and yet there was some huge, massive resistance. So on the day that I had to see him, I woke up. I used to get these gout attacks, these huge swelling of the feet and horrific pain in the feet. I woke up, I had the most massive gout attack. It was like, and my head was going like, no, call him up and say it's impossible to see him. You know, but there was some kind of grace, and that grace, you know, luckily I didn't pick up the thoughts. And even though the foot was swollen, I was just limping all the way up to, to the Victoria line, and all the way up to Brixton. I limped. I was at an absolute, it was like there was such a huge resistance to see him one-to-one. And anyway, I sat down. I was alone with a spiritual teacher who I believed was enlightened, and I had all this crap, and there was this terror. I mean, real terror to be alone in the room with him. I mean, it's okay in an audience, but to be alone, and he meant, I knew what he was up to, and what he would try, and what he would be doing. Well, anyway, I was there. I had had so much pain and suffering from addiction. My body was nearly dead. The roller coaster life of adrenaline and chasing things and then incessant thoughts, I knew that I had to find a way out, even if it meant, this thing of, seeing what's beyond this ego thing that I have identified myself to be. And I'd been doing his practice of self-inquiry, which is quite simply, I'm not him, but I'll explain in simple ways. You see, what am I? What am I? You see, am I, if I'm my thoughts, well, what's observing the thoughts, you see? If I'm a location, what's observing the location, you see? So I had got to, at that point, we're talking about maybe 12, 13 years ago, I was like listening to him in these satsangs, and I'd got to, oh yeah, this seems to be a located observer in a location. That when he'd asked me, what's observing the thoughts? Oh yeah, there is a field of observing thoughts. I was aware of that, but it seemed to be like a kind of a flat panel TV behind my head. That seemed, and I told him, he said, where, oops, thank you. It seemed to be like a flat panel TV behind my head that seemed to be detached from all the thinking that was going on. So I was at that point, what I'd got up to was I was pretty sure that, it does make sense. There is something that is not the thoughts, which is observing the thoughts. So I was quite clarified. That was, not my thoughts. But he said, you've got like a little observer at the back. So he said, he said to me, what is observing that, because it had a location, you see. What's observing that observer? At that point, I had a white light spiritual experience, the most profound mystical experience that I had. So I'll describe it in words. So it was like, there was Mooji, and he asked me, what's observing that observer? And then it was like infinite light. There was no images. It was like infinite power, infinite light, and infinite love, like on a magnitude that nothing in my human experience can compare. I'd say it's something like several thousand times an order, or even the happiest moment I'd experienced in this life prior, even in my ups and downs. It was on a different order. There was no thought, there was no room, there was no Mooji, there was no this and that. It was just like power, light and love at an intensity thousands of times more than my happiest moment ever in my life. So it was okay. So I'm speaking at a slightly dualistic level so that you can comprehend, but it seemed like something like a thought tried to emerge, something like a fragment of a thought occurred, and then there seemed to be some identification that happened with that thought. And it seemed like in a split second, instantaneously, the world, there was, I had visual representation of the world. There was Mooji in front of me. Tears were streaming down my eyes because I was now in what I'd call a bliss state. I was just blissed out, but there was like, I was aware of all the visual images, I could see Mooji, but there were just tears, and there was hardly any thinking. There was just a state of bliss. Sublime bliss. I think it was kind of obvious to him that there was no point in talking any longer, so he just told me to go. For me there, it was like, I'd have been, probably if I could speak then, I'd have been happy just to sit in that chair for the rest of the day and just be in total bliss. Even though, as I walked out, then it was like, as I walked out, it was like, everything was like, there wasn't much of a, oh, this is the interesting thing. I had this horrific gout attack. The pain had totally gone. There was no pain in the foot. I didn't even remember there was any pain. I was just walking fine. So that had gone in a split second. And then, so I was walking out, and like it was like, I wasn't really aware of the body. It was like sublime bliss, and everything seemed to be in stunning beauty. Everything was just stunningly beautiful. And there wasn't much, it was like there was just a joy, and everything was like in stunning beauty. And as the body walked down to Brixton Tube Station, I was feeling very, very early. It was very, very early in my spiritual development. And I was actually going to work, which was a bit unfortunate, really. But so I was kind of in this bliss state. And then on the tube, there was a few thoughts like, you know, how are you going to do work? So I was selling. It was like a kind of a telephone call center for direct debits for charities. So, and I was normally one of the top salespeople for getting these direct debits, you know, for all the big charities. And it was just, I was just very happy and blissed out, blissed out on the phone. And I just realised these people were going past, and no one was purchasing anything. So suddenly, like this thought, you know, this thought, like you're going to lose your job now. So I suddenly started to grasp onto that thought. There was identification. I was given energy to this thought. I need to speak faster and sound more, you know, like a salesman. And then eventually, it seemed like, and then I didn't realize, in hindsight, the bliss was leaving, you see, and the thinking mind was coming back into full operation. So I'd gone from like this place of just infinite light, infinite power. There was no visual images. I would describe it like, imagine being in the middle of the sun and trying to see a shadow. That's probably the best analogy I could do. Like, you're in the middle of the sun. Is it possible to see a shadow of this and that? It would be absolutely impossible. You cannot see a shadow or even any this and that in the middle of the sun. It's just that's what a white light spiritual experience is like. That's how I describe it. So then I came out of that, and then I could see visual images, or seeing of visual images was happening. And then there was absolute bliss, almost to the level of ecstasy. There was, you know, physical pain, there wasn't any noticing over there. And, you know, Mooji later told me it was an autumn day, because with recollection now, it was a bright summer's day for me, but it was actually a dull day, because that was the contrast of coming out, going into the thing in autumn and coming out in glorious summer. So when the thing of like the filters, you know, I mean, in hindsight now, with my years, thank you so much, Amber, with my years of spiritual, Course in Miracles, non-duality teachers, years of just letting go of the different identifications, and the more subtle and the more grosser identifications, you see, I now realize that you live in a different world. You live in a different world compared to how much identification is going on within the field of the ego. No. So, when I was in deep addiction and deep thinking, it was like a world of gross fear, and then temporary states of happiness, and then like a head that was going at 100 miles an hour non-stop. You've got to do this. You've got to have 700 things on your to-do list. You've got to go everywhere. So that state then meant I was in, oh, welcome. That state then meant I was in this kind of, it's a different world. It's a different world of experiencing. So for me, it's not black and white. It's not like you go from even all words for me can have huge identification or no identification. You can have them loosely held. Like from you know, some of the spiritual teachers say, like, well, actually what you were living in before was an illusion or a dream, or something like that. I would say it's like, depends from where you are at, you know, whether that makes sense or not. But what I saw from that white light back down to what I call my normal ego state of just being a physical body and having this big thinking thing, wanting to think of this or that or the other, or chase this, or be happy when I get there. And for me, that's one of the cause, you know, the desire and the fear, you see, that run the ego. It's like always, oh, donuts, girlfriend, career, all of those things, and then this great happiness when you get it. But then it, you know, for me as an addict, but then it only temporary happiness, and then the fall back. So I then see, so what I sort of see, the ego, and Hawkins described this in detail, is that with huge, when you haven't felt out all of these suppressed feelings or gone to the observer with them, you have this head that seems to be you, and there's this very, very strong identification with the location of the body, you see. So as you release it through whatever spiritual means, I mean, there's many different ways to let go of the ego, and there's many different spiritual pathways. I've done the 12 steps. Course in Miracles is aimed at enlightenment, but it has its own way. The non-duality teachers have their own way, which is very sharply directed. Course in Miracles is more gentler, because it's taking the ego's point of view and giving it a little bit of leeway. So it's like, it's not black and white. You don't, well, for me, not necessarily is it suddenly you're sort of like in the now, and there's no ego, and it happened in one go. For many, I mean, I had these mystical experiences, so I knew the direction, but then there was the work of releasing what remains in the ego. So it's like that state where I used to be in, when I was highly identified with being in this little location, and then I had this, you know, quite a lot of suppressed fear in the background. There was fear, there was guilt, there was shame, there was like addictive desire, like, you know, I was just hungry for this thing, and when I would get it, there would be this little flip of highness, and then again it wasn't enough, and then I'd have to go for the, you know, the girlfriend wasn't enough, I need a better one. That food wasn't enough, I need more food or different food, or, you know, so this huge roller coaster and this huge mental thinking. As you release that, for me, then you go to your ups and downs emotionally tend to be more stable. So they tend not to be so violent. And the mental thinking starts to slow down. And then, so that, I've not had that blanket of fear and this huge addictive roller coaster. It's gone. You know, that I'm not on that high sort of level of up and down. That's gone, yeah.
Did that go after you had the white light experience?
No, it didn't go after the white light. Okay. Because I managed to re-identify. I was too early in my spiritual, I mean, this was very, very new to me. I knew I had to do it, but this was like, I'd been seeing Muji. I mean, I had no clue about spirituality when I was working in the stock market 15 years ago. And then I had the kidney failure, and then suddenly I knew that I had that spiritual experience in the hospital bed, a near-death thing. And then I knew I had to find a spiritual solution, and I was guided to Muji. He was very new. I mean, the languaging of spirituality, I mean, I hadn't got a clue. I just knew something was calling me in there. I was listening to this guy, and I was just in bliss. But I didn't know exactly, you know, I was still quite ego-dominant, even though I'd be in bliss there. So when I had the white light, I didn't have the spiritual experience and the recognition of how not to get back into the ego. That wasn't there within me. So after the white light and the bliss, there was this almost grabbing onto thoughts, and that happened, and that took me all the way back down to my normal ego state, which was quite an experience. And then I had to, like, over the years, you know, gradually realize, how can you go from white light and lose a white light, and then how can you get to being in bliss and oneness and stunning reality, and suddenly lose that, and then suddenly be back in this big thinking thing, and back in this physical body so rapidly. I mean, it was like, you know, so now it's with years of spiritual teachers and the Course in Miracles and various things, you know, I gradually realized how you lose. I think that's quite valuable. You know, how can you have these sublime blissful states, and how on earth can you, like, why on earth did they go down? And the thing is quite, I mean, it's quite simple and it's quite simple, but it sometimes, you know, when you're entrenched in very, very strong ego identification with your thinking, with the body, with all the feelings, in my experience, for my journey anyway, there was a lot of, needed a lot of spiritual work to let go of the different hooks, let go of the different identifications, the little meanings that were pulling me into. So you could say, I would say, using language, which it does sound threatening to the ego, you could say there was different levels of the dream, or different levels of delusion, but I mean, if that's threatening, it's different levels of experiencing, you know. So with strong ego identification, it was like I was very tight in the body, and there seemed to be, what I can see now, there seemed to be a lot of projections going on. That person looks very friendly, that person looks quite dangerous, that person looks really nice, and there was this huge mental thinking, and it seemed like those filters, which were very heavily imbued with my own judgments and my own filters, were going on. I can now see, as you let them go, everything starts to become, you know, so the shifts that happen for me, I'm describing it in my words, are that strong body identification, and I didn't realize at the time, because only after you let it go, you realize that there was so much judgmentalism and so much filtering going on that the ego is projecting into the world. You know, the fear that there might be a dangerous person outside waiting to rob me, all of this stuff. And what I realized from the spiritual experience is that when you're in the higher states, it's like you do actually, it is like a different world. It is like a different experiencing. It's like everyone seems friendly. You know, there's an immense trust that everything will be okay. So as you get to the higher states, this body identification, if you let go of the body identification, suddenly you start to get to more of an expanded experiencing of consciousness. Suddenly it's like, oh, there's, you know, it gets looser and looser. You sometimes forget you have a body, and sometimes you're back there, oh, there is a body. Then sometimes you get this kind of like no awareness of body at all, but there's a kind of unified oneness or presence which is not related to body, and it's very, very expanded. And as you do a bit more work, it becomes more limitless, you see. And then the joy of the state seems to be a natural joy. And this is the difference from the ego. It's an intrinsic joy, you could say, I'm using words, that's present always. It's an intrinsic joy to the present moment. Whereas within the ego, it's filtering like there's a me trying to achieve something and get a payoff out of a experience in the future. And there's a roller coaster that goes on. So more it's like, I call it different words, but it's not a word. In the beingness, in the now, it's like it's spontaneous, and there doesn't seem to be. The identified me doesn't seem to be there. That's usually where the thinking.
Yes. Yeah. About the body identification. That
yes.
If you say sometimes you don't even feel like you have a body and you're not identified with the body, but how? Does that mean that you don't? Because what it is for me that you're identified with the body is that I somehow look at everything from a certain point, and that point is located in a certain body.
Yeah.
And then also that I get the sense that I feel what's the body. I can feel the body, but I cannot feel that building over there. But maybe what I feel is over there. I don't know. I mean, what's the difference between this feeling that there's a limit and there's something outside of that thing? Isn't that what the body is? It's like a limit to my sensations. I identify them as limited to a certain area, and there's something outside of that area. So you don't have that. Or what is this thing with there's a location and a certain limitation to my experience?
I'm sure, and I think nearly everyone innately has had spiritual experiences. So, like sometimes you're very, very, you correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes you're very aware of a location, and there's
if I'm in physical pain,
for example,
more located.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, especially,
If I'm very comfortable, then it spreads out.
Exactly, that's correct. When I have a very strong identification, I've gone through so many illnesses, then it's suddenly like you're clamped in this little place and this physical body. And oh my God, the pain in the foot, and everything is, and I'm seeing, I'm seeing from here, oh, my body, you know, it's a bit like that. And then you've had those times when you've had like joy, and actually in those times of joy, it's like, you know, there is actually, when you've been really, really happy, you've not been aware. You've not been aware of location. It's been more like a limitless...
Well, it's almost like... No, it's almost like if you are in that state and there is a pain, it's almost like the pain is located in you. It's like the pain is the point in you instead of you are the pain in the pain. You're in the pain instead of you being in the pain. The pain is in you somehow. There's this point of pain in your day.
That's right. That's right. And it's not important. If you're really in the state, you can ignore it. It's like it hardly has any effect, or even you forget about it. And actually, if you go and as you get higher, you let go even more of that identification with the pain is gone, you see. So I've often, now this is not...
And that's interesting, because it's like the body is in you instead of you being in the body.
Yes, the body is in you.
The body is in you, the body is a location in you. It's not like you're located in the body, the body is located in you.
Yes, when you have those experiences, you realize you know, and then when you're very identified with the body, it's like, my goodness,
you're in the body.
So as you release, actually, when you're in the more spiritual states, it's actually joy. There's an inner joy, and there is just expansion. And when you're highly identified with the thinking and the body, there is this kind of contracted like. So it's not horrible. It's not horrible or anything. And in fact, then if you're drawn spiritually, you want to let go of the identifications which pull you back down again into these things. You see, that's letting go, releasing, surrendering the various aspects, and then great fear comes up with each identified belief system. Some of these beliefs are so strong, they tenaciously there's tenacious resistance. You know, what will happen? You see, will I become a lemon or a vegetable? You know, but I need my interesting things to say to excite people. Or will I be like a boring cucumber, you know, with nothing to say? So all these thoughts, you know, protect the various identifications within the ego. So these are released. But if you have, once you realize that, when you know, like I'm sure anyone who's in those spiritual states, everything that you need comes, you see, by releasing that. It's like you're in unity with the universe. So when you need something, it's given. Like it's like to describe it linguistically, it's like there's a power that seems to be looking after everything, and it doesn't require this thinking thing that needs to be orchestrating the future and thinking about the future. And there's more of an intuitive spontaneity.
How do the law of attraction? Can you relate this to that in some way?
The law of attraction.
Because it's still a little bit when you talk about everything will come when you need it, blah blah blah. Can you?
Okay, the law of attraction. This is my view, and everything I'm saying is my view. You know, I'm not trying to sort of say anyone should agree with me. The law of attraction. My view on the law of attraction. Well, the thing the law of attraction doesn't do is it doesn't. This is my view. It doesn't talk about the. Okay. If there's an I that wants to manifest winning the lottery ticket, okay, there's a me that wants to win the lottery ticket, you see. So it'd be like, it's been about 15 years since I've studied the law of attraction, so you have to remind me if I get it a bit off key. But from what I remember, it's like, you know, oh my God, you know, my life's so awful, but if I had won the lottery, or if
well, that's not it. I mean, that's not how I see it. It's more like, for me, what the core of it is that I was wondering about. It's like, what I focus on, I attract to me. So where I put my attention, my focus, that will manifest also. It's like my thoughts, my focus, and my emotions are kind of a vibration. Yeah. And that vibration will manifest also in the physical reality. Yeah. Because it will attract similar things to me. So that means that if I'm focusing on something I don't want, that will come to me.
Yeah.
Can I just say something? Because I've come across this problem before, like, as what you said it earlier, is like more of a fear, then it becomes a fear because you think...
If you have a fear of something, you basically attract it to you because you focus on
I
it.
think it's very helpful, those ideas, because like, yes, maybe it's true, but then it just makes it more... If you're in a really like bad place and you're thinking things, and then you think, oh God, I'm just going to bring it closer to me now with this stuff, like, it's... Yeah,
It's for me. It doesn't look at letting the ego go, the structures of the ego go. So it's, for me, there's different vibrations of releasing the ego that you live on. So like for me, when I was in the stock market, if I got the law of attraction, just by being mindful of my thoughts, all my desires would be from that level of unresolved ego, you see. And I'd be wanting to get the thoughts to manifest some level of higher happiness by having a manifestation come to me. So, for example, let's say I wanted, let me make a thing, like a girlfriend would be a common one I think people could relate to. Let's say, I'm going to visualize the perfect girlfriend. I'm going to feel like she's already here, and I'm going to even imagine that I'm with her right now, and I'm dating, and I'm going to be in bliss, and I'm just going to hold that image in mind and vibrate it. So for me, it's like when that I haven't done any work on my ego, so it may well come, but for me, because I'm not happy, I haven't let go of the layers of my ego, so it's based on the idea that when I bring this manifestation in, this is going to somehow make my life better, you see.
That's a superficial understanding of it, as I have heard, because then you're still coming from this sort of lack. You're coming from lack, you're creating more lack. So it's like you have the more evolved understanding of it than should be that you understand that it's already yours, because when a desire comes in you, it's already yours on a vibrational level.
Yes.
And it just needs to, and it will at some point, it's like, because if you're still coming, you want a girlfriend because you feel you don't have the girlfriend, then you are still focused on not having the girlfriend.
That's
so
right.
You're still focused on the lack, so that is kind of, because some people understand law of attraction. I understood it more superficially before, I think, but now lately, or the last year or so, I've been more understood it more, that it's not as superficial as I thought first, but it's still something in it that I kind of struggle with, so I kind of, but you can understand it on that very superficial level, that I want a girlfriend, but you are coming from this point of, I'm incomplete, so I need a girlfriend to be complete, and that's not really, I think, not even the people who really understand the law of attraction, that's not really the core of it, I think. But even when you understand that it's about seeing that, like they say, when you ask, it is given, that is already yours. Once you even have the desire, it is given. But you don't see it yet. And the only thing that's holding you back from actually also seeing it is your disbelief or whatever. So it's like, just any time the desire is there, the fulfillment of it is also there. That is kind of a belief in this way of seeing it.
Yes.
And anytime the desire is there, the fulfillment of it is also there. And if you don't experience it yet in a physical reality, it's because something in you is blocking it away from you.
Yes.
That is kind of the idea there.
Okay.
But even that is about, and they also interpret it to Abraham Hicks. Because even that, she kind of talks a lot about that desire is good, because she puts herself contrary to most spiritual teachings.
Yes.
And she says that clearly, that desire, because that is how the universe expands, and that is God's desire. It's like the universe is all about expansion and evolution, and the evolution comes from desire. And that's true, because if there was no desire, nothing would even happen. This world is based on desire, right? It all comes into being from desire. With no desire, there will be nothing. So like all creation comes from desire. So it's like, but it's desire and fulfillment, and that is, so it's not bad to be desiring something. but it's not as if the fulfillment of desire completes you, because there's no lack. It doesn't, the basis of it is not incompleteness or unfulfillment or lack, but there is still, so that's different, because you can have desire from the perspective of I need something to make me whole because I'm missing, there's a lack in me.
Yeah,
but that's not it, it's not desire as if coming from lack, it's like almost like desire as if more. And even Maharishi in TM says, he wants more. He always says like more, and that's not bad thing. It's like there is this, the whole universe wants more. It wants to expand, it wants to grow, it wants more and more, and we also want more and more. But it can, do you see the difference? There's something there. I feel there's something this with wanting more and more without the feeling of I want more, because like when you talk about your addiction and all that, it's like I want more and more because I need, I don't have what I need, I want more, but that's another more. But I think there might be another more that is more like, I want more because this is so amazing, so I want more because it's just, and it just grows and it flowers, like all the abundance in nature, for example, is more and more. But it's not as if it's lacking, it just wants more and it wants to grow more, and I don't know, there's something there that I don't, there's something there.
Well, it's like, eventually it becomes who's the one? What is the one that needs a book, that needs to spend time holding certain thoughts to bring and wanting to bring those things in? What is the identity of that one? You see,
who wants to know this?
Who wants to know this, and seems to be dissatisfied with what's here now. You see, so what is this? Ramana Maharishi, which I often share about. Mooji talks often about Ramana Maharishi, and this. I mean, please take what you want, leave the rest. You don't have to agree with this, but this fundamentally shifted. When I heard Mooji say this, fundamentally shifted, because I was an addict, always chasing more and more. I want to get more and more. This fundamentally sort of blew something up inside of me, because it really related to me because of my incessant feeling of I need more, and I feel horrible inside. But if I get this, if I got that, if I got the person, if I got the job, if I got, suddenly I would be a little bit happy for a while, and then I want something else. So when I heard him say this shifted something very, very dramatically inside of me, which was that if you want something, when you want something, let's say I want a donut, let's make it simple, it could be anything, I want a donut. So if you desperately want a donut, you see, then it's like you have this thought that's vibrating within the consciousness. I want the donut, I want the donut, I want the donut. So, and this makes sense for me as an addict, because I was deeply unhappy, but I deeply chasing things to make me feel better. So, when you get the donut, when I eat the donut, there's this bliss. There's this like feeling of joy and happiness, because you're now munching away on the donut. And you see, because you wanted it so much, and now you've got the donut. You see, you're eating the donut. It's like your dream has come true, because so you get this kind of bliss. You've achieved the donut, which you've been thinking about. So that bliss is just the absence of the thought that says, I want the donut, I'll be so happy when I get the donut. For a little while, the ego like stays quiet. It stops saying, I want the donut. And then you have this kind of peace, this bliss. And then usually, and then in my case, and usually, so the peace that you get from that is actually the absence of the thought wanting the donut. And at that point, you know, I had so many ideas. I want success, I want the girlfriend, I want, you know, if all of these things, you know, they were so desperate for all of these things, because they'd be the solution to my life. You know, they would suddenly, and it was like, oh, by wanting all of these things, you know, it's like I have these kind of vibratory thoughts.
So you just wanted the peace from your thoughts, right?
But I wanted the peace, you know, so...
But if you have, that's what I feel more like. I think it's easy to just, at some level, I feel I don't want anything, you know. And that's more my fear, that I won't want anything, because I don't really, because I know the illusory nature of everything, so that makes me just, you know. So that's my fear, is more that, okay, it's over now, because there's nothing to want. I mean, more the thing, why want anything? What's the point? I mean, it's just, like you say, it's so temporary anyway, you know it already, so what's the point? So then, give it up. I mean, that's my biggest fear, I think, because it feels like it's meaningless, everything. Why would you want anything?
That's yeah.
That's more, I mean, because I'm not like I want, because I know that it's nothing. I mean, it's a little bit of, like you say, eat a donut, it's nice for a few minutes and then it's you know it already, so that's the more. I would be happy, I would even sometimes wish I would really enjoy, I mean, I really believe it would be more, because you know that it's not, it cannot give you, you know it's not lasting much. I mean, what's the point?
Well,
it's
the idea to let go of your wants then?
I mean, what if you don't want anything? What's the point?
Go on. Yeah.
The idea is to desire everything, but want for nothing. There's no.
How can you?
There's no point that
desire. Everything wants for nothing.
So you can desire. You have this desire, but it doesn't overtake your being in this pursuit of this particular aspect of yourself that wants this thing and is going to find fulfillment there.
But if you know it won't, because I know that, I absolutely know that 100% that it won't give me any fulfillment. That's I don't doubt that a second. That's for sure. So how can you decide? If you know it won't give you fulfillment?
You're not looking
how can you
fulfillment.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You become fulfillment. Exactly. There's nothing to fulfill you here. Only the need for the ego to be fulfilled.
How would you know that you are fulfillment? Because that's
you're not looking to know it. You finished the search. You've suddenly become complete. There's nothing that wants, or needs to have to be fulfilled in any way whatsoever. And in that moment, you know a peacefulness, and then what shows up, you're in complete acceptance of what is.
Why would you want anything then? Why would you want anything if you're so complete?
What is it that wants? It's the idea that there's something that wants something. It's that you that's wanting that. Prior to the want is what you really are.
But that's why I mean, if you have very acute awareness of that, then who you really are, why would you then want anything? There's nothing to want.
But you don't ask the question anymore. The question suddenly vanishes.
But why would you do? What keeps you going, or what makes the world go round if nobody wants anything? I mean, nobody wants anything. I think if that happens for everyone, this physical reality will not exist anymore.
That's what the Course in Miracles is saying.
Because this physical reality is made out of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The Course in Miracles, I think, has
a point.
Wow,
I just saw something really amazing when you said that. Because imagine if everybody didn't want anyone, though this physical reality wouldn't exist anymore. No. And we'd all be like...
that's what A Course in Miracles talks about waking up, isn't it, to the Father?
Yes.
That you're the son that is dreaming. I know it's a little bit convoluted, but when you don't read it from your ego, and you read it completely openly, even now I can feel the energy of it.
Yes.
There's nothing here to get except that you are complete. You are loved more than you could possibly believe that you're loved, but you're looking for all the things to satisfy this false notion, this illusionary thing that is your identity, which is not what you are. You are not that. You are the prior to that is the thing that's telling you that it is you. But yet there's no point. There's no point. Is there a means of I'm going to try and get out of this? Because if you do, you're the very thing that's trying to get out of the thing that's in the thing itself. Yeah? So you're not doing that. Yeah?
You're the very thing that's trying to get out. Say it again.
You're trying to get out of something. The thing that's trying to get out of itself is just chasing its tail. It's just trying to get out of something that's just created itself something to get out of. There is nothing to get out of. There never was anything to get out of. You're simply complete here, now, and this is what is showing up. There's no label, there's no expectation, there doesn't have to be a one.
So this will disappear then, all of this disappears
so
in this moment.
You're simply then having an experience of existing on a spontaneous level. Because all the searching is a search, it's a continuous search. Like the want, when you say you want the girlfriend, what the universe, they say in law of attraction is it hears want. So all you ever get is want, 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 want. Sometimes when people say, oh, I just give up, And then the doorbell rings or the phone goes, and it's the very thing that they wanted. It's as if as soon as they let it go and gave up, that entered their life. So it's very similar to that. And that's, I think, when you have these mystical experiences, because as soon as I've noticed that when I let go of something, even if I'm only curious now, I'm not trying to see if it shows up, because that's bringing me back into the thing that's thinking, well, that should have shown up by now. I mean, where is it? It was last week. It's not here. But I don't have that anymore. I'm just completely okay with what shows up next. I'm not always okay with the thought that comes in that says, why is this not showing up and this is not what I want? And I don't want to be in a dialogue with it, where I want to sit in my peace and be content in what is, not what this mind is trying to say to me. But yeah, but look where you are. Look at what you haven't done. Have you succeeded? Are you good enough? Are you? What is that? What is that? As soon as you start to identify the thought and the progressiveness of it, as it attaches the meaning to your life being, that's what it means now, because to get the grasp the concept that life is empty and meaningless and has no point, the mind is completely rejecting that idea that that's just, what would I be then if it's just no point being here then. And I've had those moments where, well, I just might as well not be here. But the experience you have without having that is more aliveness than you can put into the expression of words, because you're now not having the experience externally. You are the experience. Everything you experience is, you're part of the experience. You're the tree. It doesn't have a thought about, why can't I be a cherry tree? Nothing else in nature except the mind. Nothing else has mind to tell itself the very thing. And of course, in Miracles pointing to this, that you wake up to your true reality. This white light experience that you're talking about is that you are life, but your mind is telling you that you are your life situation. Your life situation is judged and criticized by your mind, possessing you into who you think you are, but you have never been that, but it makes you believe that that's what you are. When you move slowly away, or some people quickly in a crisis moment, then there's just being here. There's just being here. It's the most, it's wow. It's the bigger wow than you could possibly even put into words. And then it fades a little sometimes, and then you get caught up in your thought again, and then suddenly you think, wow, I went on a little journey there in my mind, because it wasn't real what I was thinking. The thing that I thought was going to happen didn't happen, and if it did happen, was it the worst thing that ever happened? Oh, hang on, that was the worst thing, I lost my job. But hang on, I'm doing this wonderful job that if I hadn't have lost that job, where's the reality? In any of the thinking that you're thinking, and submit yourself to the highness of letting what shows, even the law of attraction is, you're accepting each thing that comes in, as Eckhart says, as if you had chosen it. What it really means is that you are choosing it, but when you let it, your eternal self, choose for you, then there's an acceptance to your natural reality of things just showing up, the ebb and flow. And it's just, Mooji's really good with that.
Yes,
He really brought me into just watching his YouTube videos.
Who is that?
Mooji.
Mooji.
He cries when he talks about the story of the little boy, the cleaning boy. I don't know if you've watched that YouTube video.
No, I haven't heard the cleaning boy one.
Because sometimes I'm pretty very emotional and I cry, but I'm crying with every emotion. It's not just joy, it's the sadness, it's the completeness of everything that's going on. And when he cries, he can't quite finish the story because the king removes his garments.
Oh, that one, yes.
Yeah.
What was that? What is the story?
I don't know the story, but it's when you remove yourself from your thinking. It's not a trying to do, it's not even a desire to want to do. That would be the mind saying that there's a desire to get rid of the thinking only for you to be back in the thinking again. You just silence, acceptance, thoughts rushing around. When will I ever get it? When will I ever be there? When? There's no when in now. And you're so complete and whole. When you start to see each human being, is the light inside of them is in every single one of them. They're beautiful and they're perfect. It's this outerness of the mind that is the belief that they are something. Black, white, Asian, Chinese. Each one is attached to some identity, that I'm British, that just... Every belief, what I did is that every belief I had in reincarnation, in all of these books, in everything that's said in them, I said, right, I'm just going to forget everything that I believe in. And I've read a lot of those books. I'm just going to see what happens. No, that's it, it's done with it. And in that moment, there was peacefulness. There was nowhere left that I needed to go to. I was complete.
So it's just thinking that makes the ego more alive, no? The thinking.
It's not, you can have thinking because it's really useful to have.
Spiritual thoughts or something like that.
You get the attachment, the thought, you start attaching a meaning to the thought. That is what you are, that is what you need to do, and that is what, when you do that, yeah, that's going to equate to something personally to this identity. The thinking in itself, it doesn't, if it has an objective, it can have an objective, but you're not so fully immersed in this thinking that if it doesn't happen, then you won't be fulfilled or you won't be successful. There's no such thing as success. You're being success every single second you take a breath, you're successful. And that gift of being present to that,
To the right here, right now.
you really feel it. If you can feel it, it vibrates in your body, and it's just, and the mind for me wants to desire for everyone to have that experience, just running around telling everybody, wake up, just please wake up, and you hear people talking and talking and talking and why and how and I don't know and just let it go.
And judging, especially judging.
Judge, yeah, I'm not there yet. Judge of yourself, judging of the other, judging of the country, judging of this planet, judging of the temperature, judge not. And suddenly, it's just this...
Silence.
It's both, it's the paradoxical nature of being a part of this and being connected with this eternalness that you are only having an experience of whoever you are, whatever your name is, wherever you come from, and returning to that while being in physical form. It's really high emotional state. And yet you're not judging everybody that they're not getting it. The world doesn't have to or not get to any particular stage. But to be blessed in being here, and every person that shows up, and being fully present to that person, and allowing them to talk to themselves through you. This oneness that we are is behind everything that we think is what it is. And it's a paradox.
I see a lot of humility there, because humility is it expresses what you are saying. It's just humility is connected with nothing, with that's I am nothing. Yes, I'm just present, open.
That's it. Exactly. It's that Tao, isn't it? You are both the question and the answer simultaneously, but at the same time you don't need to have another question or another answer answered. You are complete and whole of who you are. You are loved from within you more deeply. You don't need there's no love out there that's going to have you be more love. You already are love in yourself. And so that's, anyway. Sorry, I got
No,
carried
thank
away.
you. That was beautiful. that was beautiful. And,
The total, yes, there is no fear at all. Totally, yes, the opposite of fear is love. So
I think with the yeah.
fear is also quite powerful in most of us. Fear.
In most people, yes, it's a common emotion. I think this thing, and I think it was alluded to there, you know, of actually the more you let go of the ego, the more alive you are. And that's what I experienced. The more I'm identified with my thinking and body, you're actually in a kind of a dim, highly located, up and down world, which huge up and down swings. So what I realized from my spiritual experience is if you could let go of all that crap that I'm holding on to, you know, like suddenly being in tremendous fear, located in pain in my body, and really wanting to eat that donut, but I can't get to the donut, you know, that existence. And if you let all this crap go within yourself, the amount of energy, life, and beauty that is experienced is phenomenal, unimaginably phenomenal. Then you, yeah.
When you're ready. My question is, thank you for sharing that you shared. What came out, what I took from it was something about acceptance.
Yes.
And letting go.
Yes.
And now you're talking about letting go. So my question is, how do you?
Okay.
So how do you let go of the thoughts and the wants and all the stuff that keeps us very much identified with our body?
Yes.
And then how do you accept all the love that's already there? How do we accept our completeness?
This is a great question. How do you let go of the underpinnings of the ego? So I think it feels right to talk a little bit about Muji now. Okay, so how do you let go? Well, you see, there are thoughts. Okay, so one of the things, I want to share something first. I'm answering your question, but in a long-winded way, sort of thing. The thing is, like, everyone's had the experience. I often share this just to see the reality or the unreality of the ego. Like, I was in this group many months ago, and I was talking, and then I said, oh, can you hear the traffic noise outside? And at that point, you know, I think nearly everyone in the group realized that they hadn't been hearing any traffic noise outside. But when I mentioned there's traffic noise outside, they could all hear it suddenly. So this is the thing, I think it's a common experience, you see, is that when you're identified with the traffic noise, you hear it. When you're not identified with the traffic noise, it seems to be that there's silence in the room and there's no awareness of the traffic noise. I think everyone's a universal experience. Like when I first went, I live outside a tube station track. When I first went in, I could really hear the tube every day. And I think one person, I remember, said, how can you live in a house with the Piccadilly line just going bing, bing, bing and rattling the house? And then after a few months, I didn't hear anything at all. I was living in that place, and yet for me, I didn't hear a single noise outside, even though the Piccadilly line was going past. I think that's a universal experience that everyone's had as to the level of what is reality and what is not reality, and what is peace and what is not peace. So, when I was highly identified and the sound had meaning, yeah, and it was like I could hear it, it was like this big noise, and there was a huge disturbance in my thinking. Bloody hell, that's the PD line going off again and vibrating the house. And then after a few months, there was no vibration in my experience. And I didn't even hear Piccadilly line going past. It was oblivious to my experience. So this is what I'd call, in my view, the power of meaning and identification and interest. When I'm in a strong spiritual state, because I fluctuate, but when I'm in a strong spiritual state, I get up at Bond Street tube station, I go to this church, and it's like there's a literal bliss and peace that's encompassing me, and I can hardly hear any noise, and it's like this, almost like a hush with me, and no one's irritating me. It's like, you know, the world's beautiful, in a hustling Oxford Street full of people, and it's like I float float into the church across Oxford Street. When I'm a bit more identified in my thinking, and I can notice these rude tourists, I get these thoughts, these rude tourists, they're just standing in front of the doorway and not moving. So suddenly I can hear more noise, and it seems to be I'm a little bit more located in the body, and all of the ego identity seems to be a little bit more in there. So for me, of course, I would love, and I'm talking like there is an I that wants something, but when you're in the identified state, for me it seems like there is an I that's independent. Anyway, so I'm answering your question. So this thing of like, is it not, even for everyone in this room, sometimes you can be in this room and it can be totally peaceful. And for one person, it can be like this total peace, total stillness, total bliss, and hardly any time elapsed. It's like almost timeless in this room. And for the next person, it was like, God, did you hear that car go past? And then the next second, what happened? The light was changed. There's a cloud outside, and there's all this noise going on. And God, there's this ache in my pain, in my foot. And it was like that was the most difficult experience I had being in this room. You see,
it is attention, right? It's just where you put your attention, isn't it? It's where attention goes. That's what you see, you hear. Then it shifts all the time. If you focus, like you're saying, if somebody points something out there, you hear the traffic noise. The attention goes there, you hear it. It's where you shift, where the attention goes.
So.
Or if you have a thought, if your attention goes to this thought, then that's your focus. Like the attention goes different places.
Okay, so what I learnt from Uji is that you can inquire into the nature of what am I? What am I?
Focusing on.
What is, yes, yeah. What is my identity? So initially comes, I am my thinking. You see, I like to explain it in terms of a metaphor, you see. So, am I and this is quite a visual metaphor, but this is the way I like to do it. You see, if I am, what am I? And I make the metaphor, and this is my own metaphor, which is not the best one. If I'm an eyeball, can I be the objects that I'm observing? You see? If let's say I'm an eye, I'm an eyeball. Let's say that's my true identity. And I always say, I am that cup on the table, because I can see the cup. My true identity is the cup, because I can see the object of the cup in front of me. And I believe that. Actually, is the truth that I am the eyeball, I am the observer that is observing the cup, or am I the object that is being observed, the cup? So suddenly there can become, I could be living my whole life thinking I'm the cup because I'm observing the cup, you see. So suddenly there can come a spiritual realization, I am that which is observing the cup. So I'm not the cup, that's an object that is being...
You might be both the cup and the what's and below me.
Okay, I mean...
one thing, so you might be the cup also.
Okay, I mean, so this is just a way of disidentifying from I'm definitely, you could say it's a tool. So then I had the realization, because I'm observing the cup, I'm not the cup, I'm the observer of the cup. But what about these thoughts? What about the thoughts? Oh, I have a belief. I'm my thinking, for sure. Yeah, I have the thought. I'm 47 years old, I'm a male, I live in London, this is what I am, these are my thoughts about it, this is my identity. And these thoughts, suddenly there's a thought, and then it's gone, and there's another thought, and it's gone. So I'm sure I'm my thoughts, but actually something is observing the thoughts, and I can have that recognition. It's a spiritual experience. So is there something that observes thoughts which is not thoughts? Is there an observer of thoughts? Suddenly there's no thought, then there's a thought, and then it's gone. So it's like a passing object. So suddenly there can be a spiritual realization that, oh, this is something that is passing, and there is an observer of these thoughts which are passing. Okay? So when that is recognized, you realize, oh, when there's identification with the thoughts, it seems I am the thoughts, but there is something which
Just
observes
very
the thoughts.
attached to certain thoughts.
That's the Course calls those special thoughts. Muji calls them 5-star thoughts.
Yeah.
Muji calls them 5-star thoughts. The Course calls them special thoughts.
Yeah.
They're imbued with special meaning or interest or identification. These are the special thoughts.
You think that if they're not there, you don't know who you are anymore?
Yes, that's right.
Because they make you into what you are. Those thoughts make my identity, are made up of certain thoughts. If I take them away, I'm nothing.
Yes.
I don't like that idea.
That is.
It's not you that doesn't like the idea.
That's
It's the idea that you are that you are not that doesn't like the idea of that. That's
Yeah.
all you have to let go of. It's the same as your question.
Yeah.
Let go of the letting go.
Oh,
Yeah?
okay.
Yeah? There's nothing to let go of except the meaning, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that is imbued with, that I need to let go, that there's something to let go of. Brings you back into the story of how do I let go, when do I let go? All the questions arise within the thought again of the identification that there's something that you need to let go of.
But I mean, there are certain thoughts that you, favorite thoughts.
Yes,
types
that's
of
right.
thoughts,
Yes.
that whoever that is.
We're making progress. We're making progress.
Yeah, but I mean, theoretically I can see it, but I'm not talking theoretically, I'm not
Okay.
talking experientially now. So there are certain thoughts that I...
Okay, what's one of these thoughts? Can you give me an example of one special
let's
thought?
say, what is one of these thoughts? Typically, I know them when I see them.
Okay.
It's more like
Is this
I
something
haven't-
you really want?
It is like I can feel there is a structure
Okay.
that I identify with. It's a mental structure.
Okay.
And there are certain thoughts come, but it's almost like a structure. I can feel it like a
Yes.
structure that is
Yeah.
beyond the thoughts. It's like before that structure creates the thoughts. I think I can feel that it's like a mental structure that puts out certain thoughts that fit into this.
Okay.
Almost like a building structure. When you
Yeah.
build a building, there's this metal structure that is in the, and that structure is like me. And my biggest fear is like that structure. If that structure goes,
Yes.
because sometimes it has happened, not often, a few times I can get this sense like, oh, the structure is now
Yes.
going apart, and it's like, oh, that's like the big, like this is, and when I felt that little thing that it was crumbling somehow, I realized it was there. It was
Yes.
like, this is something I'm so used to that I don't even notice it because it's just what I am, and when I
Yes.
could feel it kind of felt like it was moving a little bit, then it
Yes.
was like, wow, this is me that I didn't know even was there until it threatened to move. Because it's not even thought, there are certain thoughts, I cannot say exactly now because there are many thoughts maybe that I'm afraid, about that, about fear, and about, I don't know, many thoughts, but even beyond that there is something like a structure.
So is the structure like a location with lots of thoughts coming out? Right
no,
now we're
not
talking now.
location. It's
Or is it a
very interesting
thinkingness?
because I can feel it. It's like
Yeah, well, how are you
it-
feeling it in this moment?
it's not even a thought when I think. I can focus now inwards,
Yeah.
and then I can sense my structure. That is not the thought and it's not the feeling,
Yes.
but it is a something
Okay.
that I identify with.
So what is the I that is identifying with it?
I don't know what that is.
So are you a thing right now? Are you a thought? Are you a feeling? Are you a body? Are you a sensation? Or are you none of those?
Oh, there is something that is none of those. I can sense that, but there is still something. It's still
Okay,
something.
is the something, so this something is you? It feels like this something is you right
It
now?
feels like this something could disappear.
It
So
could
if there is something that is beyond that, that must be something that cannot disappear. But whatever it is, the something, what I call the
Okay.
structure fear can disappear because it is.
Who is the I? What is the I that is fearing? You say there's an I here that is fearing the disappearing. What is
Okay,
it?
so what is beyond the structure?
What is this I?
It's just nothing. I mean,
Okay, so if
there is nothing. Before there is nothing.
Yes.
Beyond the something, there is nothing. The nothing.
Are you the something or the
nothing?
Are you the something?
I cannot be the something because the something can disappear. So I must be the nothing that is before the something.
Okay, but what is your experience? Are you in this moment? Are you the something? Are you limited in any way in this moment?
I feel very much identified with my body in this moment. Very much.
So there's a sense of location.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much.
Is there any feeling, or is it just a sense of location right now in this body?
It's a sense. I mean, you can feel my hands. I can.
Oh, you can feel your hands. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and the thoughts, are they you, or there's no thoughts? Are you sure you're not the thoughts, or are you the thoughts? Is the I
There's
the
a bit of
thoughts?
confusion as the thoughts are not clear.
Okay, so there's unclear thoughts.
There's kind of fuzzy.
Fuzzy, unclear thoughts,
Yeah.
and there's awareness of the body. So, there has been times in your life when you've not been really aware of the body, or not aware of the body at all.
Yeah.
And so this is something that can come and go. Sometimes there can be strong awareness of body, and sometimes
it
you're
comes
not.
and goes all the time.
It comes and goes all the time.
I can feel how I'm aware of how the focus just goes all over. The
Okay,
place.
good. So it can be there and it cannot be there. So the body is here and it cannot be here sometimes. And the fuzziness is sometimes here and the fuzziness is
and that's a
sometimes.
thought and sometimes not a thought.
And sometimes not
just
thought.
moves all the time.
So these are things that which are you are experiencing, which are changing.
Yeah.
Yes. So okay, there's body here. So there is here. So there is something here which is which can observe the change, which is not the change.
And there is something that wants to attach to something to know what it is.
Yes.
There's something that's definitely looking for something to be.
And there's something
I
that.
need to be something, so I have to know what I am, so I can find something to say that. That's just me.
Okay.
I'm very much.
So there's something that's wanting and is thinking, but these are also being observed. Yeah. So you see something is here which can observe everything that is changing and can report the change. So sometimes there's body feeling and is being observed, and sometimes there's no body feeling observed. Sometimes there's thoughts or fuzzy thoughts, and sometimes it observes there is no fuzzy thoughts. So
emotion
and motion and no emotion. So there is the observer that observes all change. Something is observing time passing, which is not the time. Something is observing the body being present and not being present. Something is observing fuzzy thinking and no thoughts. So in this moment, what are you? Are you limited in any way? How?
I don't know.
Okay, the I that does not know, yes?
Yes.
What is this I? Are you this I that doesn't know in this moment? Are you this thought in this moment?
No, I'm not the thought.
Okay.
Not the thought.
So the thought, it's clear. Is this clear? There is an observing of this thought. I don't know.
Yeah, of course, I'm not the thought.
Okay, good. So, if you're not the thoughts, even the thoughts can be there. There is an observing of the thoughts. So, are you limited? Is there a you in this moment that is limited?
I just feel like I'm attaching myself, and I look out and I see this building, and then suddenly that's what I am. I kind of just attach to something, so that is me in that very second. If I suddenly think of a thought or I feel a sensation, then that's me.
Well,
I go from one thing to the next and attach to this, I attach to that.
Yeah. So attention and lack of attention is observed, yes? Something knows when there is attention going on the camera, and something knows when there is no attention. So there is an observer of that, of attention and no attention. So there is that which is observing and is watching attention and no attention, which is not the attention or the lack of attention. See? So, okay, there can be attention and there can be no attention in the moment. There can be focus and there can be no focus. Okay? So something observes these different differential states. Attention, non-attention. Focus, non-focus. But is not the attention drifting and is not the focus drifting, but is the observer of these things. So coming back to now, is there an I that is here now? Or
I don't know. I mean, it's nothing. I don't know what it is.
okay, if you let this thought go, I don't know what it is. Yeah, because that's a thought.
It's a thought. If I don't say anything, I don't think,
You
then
can-
it's just...
You can say things without, but we're seeing your identity right now. You see, we're finding. Is
it's
it?
more
is it-
empty space.
Yes,
Empty space.
that's yes. Is that scary?
Yes. I don't like it. Who is
Okay.
it recently?
Yeah. See, so you're automatically saying this is a thought. This is observed. I mean, this is the I. As soon as you identify with the thought,
But
Yeah.
there needs to be an I. What else? If there's no I, it's just an empty space. How boring.
there's still some identity left, which you, if you stay in the stillness or just observe whenever the I comes in, this will take away the layers. You see, is because you're new.
You mean stay with that empty space?
Well, it evolves. It can be empty space, then it can be expansive space, then it can be like limitless love or limitless presence. Then it can be just, the now or intuitiveness. But there's no something talks. You could
This
say.
is craving coming in and saying, I want to be something. Is this like I want to be something?
I needs limitation.
Yeah, I need to say this is me. I need to decide what I am. I don't need to choose one thing and say that's me.
So this is going to be, this is like the duality. So this is like, there's a me that needs to
Separate
be
itself from the rest.
yes,
Exactly.
yeah,
I have to separate something and say this. I have to touch.
The ego wants some level of separation
Yes.
in the now for its existence. So it has to hold on
To say I, you have to say I.
Yes,
You say
exactly. I is the problem.
I. You have to say I.
I is the start of
Yes,
the ego.
I.
The thought emerges I.
Yes, exactly. I. It screams I. It wants to say I.
'Cause
When it's empty, it says I.
Yes, it needs to say
It's
I.
such a craving. I can feel it how it comes when it's just empty there.
And something is observing the craving, which is not the craving. Something is observing the interest in I-ness.
Yeah. What is the interest in I-ness?
And these see. So something is observing that which is not that. Something is free. Something is limitless here. Something
The
is eternal.
space, of course, around it. Space around it.
Something is here which is not worried about anything or worried about the next moment.
What is the I then? This little creature
The-
coming out. Yeah, I can feel it almost like a bee coming. It's a troll.
The
that's coming
I-
out.
The eye is the interest given into thought with intensity, which then initiates the I identity. If you don't give any, thoughts can come and go, but if there's no hooking into, there's just expansion and presence and now. As soon as there seems to be some
Hey, this is
identification.
who are screaming I and say I am the thought. It's just I who wants to appropriate that.
There's a
kind of-
strong thought of identification with I-ness. You don't have the identification with, like, if someone said, like, the sky is blue outside, it's a meaningless thought. It doesn't really do anything. There can be timeless expansion or presence now. It's a meaningless thought. But something is very attached, very interested, very highly identified with I.
Yes.
You see,
Absolutely.
and wants to be, and the more the identification, the more you can be in separation. The more you can be limited. The more there can be
Oh, I want to be
the
limited.
need. You want to be limited.
I didn't know that, but apparently I do. There's a part. This is I who wants to be limited.
It's true. There is something. There is a thing. There is a thing that wants to be limited because its thingness means limited. By holding this, by holding body, there is suddenly the body. By holding a collection of thoughts.
It's like that creates something, because if the I doesn't say I, it's like it's something coming from nothing. It says I. Suddenly it's something coming.
So
it's something that is created by saying I.
Yes, they bring. So, what's the problem with not being the? What's the problem with now? Why is there a need for an I and limitation now? Does that need to be there?
I don't know why it's there.
No, you don't know why it's there. Do you need it to be there? You don't know what it's like. You do know. You had glimpses, but you're not aware of those glimpses, that things can happen spontaneously without limitation. Doesn't need the I editing.
I cannot really understand how this world can be, and how everything can be, and how this whatever personality or being, whatever can be without the I. How can it be? The I is like, what is it without the I?
It's very happy without the I.
That's amazing.
The more
And what is this being, this person, or this being sitting here? If there's no I, how can this? Who is this then? If there's no I,
Or completely open to experience.
it's like
You're not running away from any experience, and you're not running to any experience. Just each experience is arising, and you
yes,
fully experience that moment.
that's right. Yeah, that's what all the spiritual teachers say. It's in fact, from my own experience, the more identified I am with I, the more horrible it is. You know, it's like going. And when you're very identified with an I, it's a total nightmare. And
I don't understand how it could even be possible not to be identified with the I. It seems completely. How can it even be? I mean.
yeah, well, we were just going a minute ago. Something was observing your thoughts. Something is observing your body. So something is something.
Yeah, but if you're in that empty thing, then the thoughts there won't be much of thoughts, and you would just be empty in the head. And
that's a belief. You have to let go. That's a fear-based belief system that you find very interesting. These are the classical beliefs. I'll be a donut. I'll be boring. I won't exist. These also have great power while you're holding on to them, and mean that you stay identified with various limited states of expression. You know, it's not nothingness, but there are stages. You know, it's like having the faith, you know, to experience less limitation and to trust that. And then there's a phase, and then you realize there's still some beliefs. Oh, I'm afraid that I'll be nothing, I'll be a vegetable. But then something is observed.
I'm afraid.
Something observes that. You inquire, but oh yeah. And then there's a release, and then there's more living presence. Yeah.
Thank you.
The prayer of Saint Francis, which I quite like, is Lord. I'm not going to say the whole prayer, but the first line is, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. And the last line is, it's in dying that one is born to eternal life. So, when the I is gone, it's like you're an instrument. Meaning, the I is gone, and it's like there's a oneness with the universe, and everything is just unfolding, and the I is gone. So it's not, there's no I. And a closer word to it is one is in unison with the universe. It's like everything is spontaneously happening. It's like an instrument, would be the best way to describe it. And then you're an instrument of the peace. And it's in dying, of course, the death of the ego, that one is born to eternal life. So it's this, you know, the constant up and down of the ego, the constant this and that, and the thinginess, I call it the thinginess of the ego, the identification with an object or a thought or a body, or even tracking time. All of these various aspects of latching on with interest, with meaning, with projection onto these various things, that is gone, because then there is the waking up to the eternal, that which is beyond time, beyond this and that, beyond location. See, it's the ultimate state of life, to be in that and to let go of the limited identity, the thing that created separation, and this disconnected from a that, me that's disconnected from God, a me that needs to achieve all of this, a me that has to think about the future or worry about the past. You see, this up and down, this I'm limited and I'm afraid of my limitation changing, this huge fear. So suddenly it's the waking to an eternal beingness, an eternal life. And it's not, and for me, I mean, I'm describing with words, but it's like, but even from the viewpoint of an I that exists, you know, to be one, to be limitless, to trust in the love of the universe, that it doesn't need this I telling the creator what needs to happen in the future and how it needs to happen. So then it becomes, there is a unity without I. There is a stability. There is, in that place, there's a total absence of fear, a total absence of desire. But spontaneity and intuitiveness, which does not arise from the limited I, you could say that limited I would say, and many spiritual teachers say, the more you're in the limited I, the more destruction, unmanageability, and the greater the roller coaster of life.
Maybe it's because if you haven't experienced it, you don't trust that it can be like this.
Yes, this is correct.
You don't trust that it can work.
Yes, it's exactly true. The limitless, and this is what all the teachers, the great teachers shared in letting go of the limitless I. That have faith to release the fear of the limited I.